It is one of the most fabled vessels to ever sail the seas.
They called it the Ship of Dreams, but obviously it didn't work out that way.
Our Titanic obsession endures so much so explorers continue to risk fame and fortune trying to examine the wreckage.
It is the most famous cruise ship in the history of the world, and even a century after it sunk, it still holds a special place in our hearts.
Now, museums devoted to Titanic have popped up all over the world.
And in this episode of Window Seat, we are taking you to the museum in Belfast, Northern Ireland, dedicated to Titanic.
Plus, we'll explore this museum in England, dedicated to the hometown men and women who made up Titanic's crew and perished that fateful night. And what about that Tennessee Titanic Museum that so many people are talking about?
And we'll take you to another Titanic museum, and of all places, Denver, Colorado?
If you love the movie, if you love the ship, if you love the story, you're going to love this adventure.
It's all ahead in this episode of Window Seat.
What is it about this ship? I mean, there are thousands of vessels at the bottom of the sea, but for some reason, Titanic's place in history endures. And no place is that more evident than in the town where she was built, Belfast, Northern Ireland. And that is where we're going to start. The Titanic Belfast Museum is a major visitor attraction and cultural landmark here. Opened in 2012, it's located on the site of the Harland and Wolff shipyard where the RMS Titanic was built. The museum's iconic building was designed to resemble ship hulls with its shimmering aluminum-clad exterior and shape evocative of a ship's bow. The design also incorporates elements that reflect the industrial heritage of Belfast. The building stands 125 feet tall, the same height as Titanic's hull. Titanic Belfast features 9 interactive galleries that chronicle the story of Titanic from her conception in Belfast in the early 1900s through her construction and launch to her infamous maiden voyage and catastrophic sinking. It covers Belfast in the early 20th century, showcasing the city's thriving shipbuilding industry, a recreated shipyard environment giving insight into the shipbuilding process. It also focuses on the launch of Titanic on May 31st, 1911. The fit-out portion of the museum showcases the luxurious interiors of the Titanic. The maiden voyage section details the ship's journey from Belfast to Southampton and then on to its fateful voyage. And then you explore the sinking with an emotional account of the disaster on April 15, 1912. The aftermath examines the inquiries and media coverage following the sinking. The myths and legends section debunks common myths and legends about the Titanic. And then Titanic Beneath features modern-day underwater exploration of the wreck site, including an explainer about Robert Ballard, the oceanographer and marine geologist whose pioneering use of deep-diving submersibles laid the foundation for deep-sea archaeology and helped him discover the wreck of Titanic in 1985.
What's fascinating about the museum is you really follow it from soup to nuts when it comes to the construction, design, the building, which took forever, the fitting out, which took almost a year. It took a lot to get this ship ready to go, and they thought that this was going to be the grandest, most enduring ship in the history of the world, and had fate not aligned that night, it may well have been. Who knows how long this thing could have sailed the seas. It was just that perfect combination of weather, of speed, of lack of preparation that caused this ship to wind up on the floor of the Atlantic that night. And you have to wonder, had it not happened, would we even know the name Titanic? We probably wouldn't, because there were a lot of ships sailing the seas at that time that we don't remember. So it's fascinating. But this really follows the evolution of the ship from, the excitement of building it up and getting it ready to sail to that fateful night when you hear the Morse code messages, the emergencies that are being flashed to ships out at sea, saying that this grand ship is about to sink to the bottom of the ocean floor. And then at the end of the museum, you see sort of this ethereal underwater experience where you learn the stories of those who died, and you also learn the really Herculean effort it took to get this thing discovered. Once again, when that kid from San Diego had this dream to find the Titanic wreckage, and he followed through and it made it happen, and he lost money and he lost credibility and all those things, but he was determined to find the wreckage site of the Titanic. And when he finally did, the jubilation that was experienced by his team, only to be dampened by the fact that they realized, hey, it's 2 a.m, we just found the wreckage of the Titanic, and that's basically the same time the ship sunk. Maybe we should be a little more reverent. And so they were, and they had like a funeral service almost for the people who lost their lives on the ship that night. So it's just fascinating. And if you're obsessed with this ship, as so many people around the world are, you're going to want to check this place out.
There's also a restaurant, cafe, and gift shop. Tickets cost about $30 per person US. It's well worth the money. They invested a lot of time and technology into telling Titanic's story.
Far exceeded any expectations I had. There's a little mini ride that takes you through, and there's some very nice touches if you take the ride that you can kind of feel and understand. And it's a lot of history in there. It's very poignant at points, very ethereal at points.
And Belfast does not have the market cornered on Titanic history. There's another great museum, this one in the UK in the town of Southampton. This is where Titanic's crew came from, where so many hometown boys were lost. Let's take a look inside.
The Sea City Museum in Southampton, England features a significant exhibit dedicated to the RMS Titanic, emphasizing the city's strong connection to the ill-fated vessel. It opened April 10, 2012, marking a century since the Titanic's departure from the city. The Titanic exhibit at Sea City Museum explores the ship's history and its deep ties to Southampton. The exhibit delves into the lives of the crew members, 724 of whom were from Southampton. A staggering 549 of them died. And in this room, they show the impact by marking the address of each of those crew members in the city to show there was barely a city block in Southampton that didn't suffer the loss of a neighbor when the ship sunk. The exhibit includes interactive displays that allow visitors to experience what it was like to be on board the Titanic. There's a model of a cabin from the ship, a recreation of the ship's bridge, and a simulated courtroom where visitors can take part in the British inquiry into the sinking. The museum also houses various artifacts related to Titanic, including items recovered from the wreck and belongings of crew members. And the use of audiovisual presentations helps bring the story of Titanic to life, engaging visitors in the narrative of the ship's journey and the tragic events that unfolded. In addition to the Titanic exhibit, the Sea City Museum also showcases Southampton's broader maritime history, including its role as a gateway to the world and its development as a major port city. There's a cafe and a gift shop. Tickets cost about $11 US, and if you find yourself in Southampton, this is definitely a place you're going to want to visit. The crew is often forgot about in the Titanic tragedy, and this museum really brings home the impact the sinking had on one single solitary community. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think about Titanic, I immediately think about Denver, Colorado. What's this, a Titanic museum in the Mile High City? Well, it's a museum dedicated to one of the most famous passengers aboard the Titanic, the unsinkable Molly Brown. The Molly Brown House Museum is an historic house museum dedicated to the life and legacy of Margaret Molly Brown, a renowned socialite, philanthropist, and Titanic survivor. Located in the heart of the city, this is the mansion she used to call home. Built in the 1880s, the museum was opened in 1970 as a tribute to one of Denver's most famous residents ever. Brown gained fame for surviving the sinking of RMS Titanic. She was also known for her activism and efforts in social reform, women's rights, and labor issues. The museum showcases period rooms that have meticulously been restored to reflect the lifestyle and times of the Brown family. Visitors can see the opulent furnishings, decorations, and personal artifacts of the Browns. The museum features permanent exhibits about Margaret Brown's life, including her early years, her philanthropic work, and her experiences on the Titanic. By preserving and interpreting the life and times of Margaret Brown, this museum educates the public about the important social issues, historical events, and legacy of this Titanic disaster.
Oh, it's cool. I mean, it's an old house, obviously. It's been around for a very long time. I mean, I've lived in Denver for 11 years and I've never been in it, so it's just kind of cool to finally see it. There's a lot of old history in there, and obviously it talks about Molly Brown's place in it. And of course the Titanic, which is why we're here. I mean, the unsinkable Molly Brown, there's the play. I mean, she was in the movie Titanic with Kathy Bates. I mean, she played a huge role in, I guess, women's rights and the movement back then, so why not?
The Molly Brown House Museum costs about $15 US to tour, and while there are a million fun things to do in the Mile High City, if you have a free afternoon and even just a passing interest in the Titanic, this is a place you should visit. And finally, a place you've probably seen pictures of, the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It offers an immersive experience that allows visitors to explore the history and legacy of the Titanic. The museum's exterior is designed to resemble the Titanic itself, with a half-scale replica of the ship, including its iconic bow and smokestacks. The building creates the illusion of the ship at sea, including an artificial iceberg inside. The museum features detailed recreations of various parts of the Titanic, including the grand staircase, first-class cabins, third-class accommodations, and the ship's bridge. Upon entry, each visitor receives a boarding pass with the name and details of an actual passenger or crew member who was on the Titanic. And then at the end of the tour, you can discover the fate of your assigned person. The museum houses more than 400 artifacts directly related to the Titanic and its passengers. These artifacts include personal items, ship components, and memorabilia recovered from the wreckage site. If you love Titanic and happen to be in town visiting Dollywood, this is a place you should stop. It seems there are places all over the world where you can study, examine, and learn more about the most famous cruise ship in the world, but if we had to pick a favorite, it would be right back where we started, at the Titanic Museum in Belfast, Northern Ireland. It is truly where the ship was born, and if you want to learn everything there is to know about it, come here.
So there you have it, from its very inception to its construction to its doom at the bottom of the Atlantic. You learn it all inside this gorgeous, high-tech, multimedia museum in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and you're definitely going to want to make a stop here if you make your way to this part of the world. That's it for this episode of Window Seat. I'm Jeremy Hubbard in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you saw, we'd love it if you liked and shared this video so we can share our travel adventures with the rest of the world as we circumnavigate the globe, trying to get to every single country. Also, if we left something out or you have something to say about any of these museums, let us know in the comments below. We'd love it if you hit subscribe too, so we can build a community of fellow travelers the world over. We are back with a brand new episode of Window Seat next Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. In the meantime, please check out one of these other episodes from Window Seat.